Hello everyone, Fletch here, Campers in RV, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Sparky's in the camper, he's ready to go. What we're going to talk about today is the camper buying process from start to finish. Now I hope to touch on everything. I'm going to try to reach everything, keep it as simple, as short as possible. Bear with me because I just don't want to miss anything, because I think that in this process, it's a very detailed process, and the more that you know and understand, the better experience you're going to have at a dealership purchasing a camper. So one of the first things that you want to do before you even go out is check your credit score, see where your credit score is at. Typically a 720 and above you're going to get your best interest rates. Anywhere from 600 to 720, interest rates are going to vary a little bit. And below 600 credit score is challenging, not impossible. You'll probably have to bring some tax returns and proof of income and stuff like that, and have to put down a little bit of a down payment. And that's a good time to talk about the down payment. When you go in looking at a camper, have in mind, especially if you're looking at used campers, you might want to save a little bit of money, get a used camper for a little bit cheaper price. You're going to have somewhere in the range of a 20% minimum down payment, maybe 10% if you're lucky. And that's going to be a bank requirement based on that. And it's also based on your credit and your debt to income ratio. So there's a lot of variables there. But I would always, as a rule of thumb, put 20%. And for a new camper, 20% and above. I mean, that's going to give you the best interest rate. I mean, if you can't do it, that's fine. I mean, you can buy a new camper with very little to no money down. But bear in mind that monthly payment's going to be a little bit higher. But, you know, if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. The other thing in line is have a budget in mind. How much do you want to spend? What do you want your monthly payment to be? So those are the things to take in consideration. And then that actually segues into my next segment is cash is no longer king. So when you come in, you're going to have a cash amount of the camper is selling for, and then you're going to have the finance amount. So typically, if you're online and you see the camper and you say that, well, the camper's $30,000. Oh, great, we're going to go buy this camper for $30,000, and we're going to pay cash for it. Well, no, it's probably going to be $32,000 for the cash price, and that's because the bank gives us a financial incentive to do financing. So as a consumer, that's your best option. That's going to get you the best deal. And these are simple interest loans. There's no prepayment penalties in any of that. You can pay it off whenever you'd like, so you're not going to get penalized for that. So you definitely would want to take that financial incentive by doing it that way. That's going to save you the most money. And also, when you see that camper and the price is listed online for $30,000, that's not including that you're going to have, and we're very transparent. Campers Inn very transparent with this, is you're going to have dealer prep fees, you're going to have dealer documentation fees, you might have transportation fees, and you're also going to have your tax tag and title. So those are fees that are going to be added on top of that $30,000 price. So I would venture to say, let's say your camper is $50,000 and your tax percentage in your state or your area is 6%. Well, that's $3,000 right there. I know in South Carolina it's $500. So, you know, what I tell people is, with your dealer prep fees, your tax tag and title, you know, you're probably looking at an additional $3,500 added on to that $3,000, just, you know, a roundabout number. So bear in mind that when you see that price on the internet, that may not, then that's certainly not going to be your out the door price. And that's something that you can talk to with your salesperson during the process is, you know, hey Brian, my budget's my budget was $50,000. You showed me a camper that was $49,566, and now we're at now we're at $55,000 with all the add-ons. So, that's got to be that's got to be a conversation that's got to happen during the fact-finding mission of where you want to be at with your budget. So now that you know that those numbers exist, it makes it a little bit for you as the consumer to know that, when you get there and talk to your salesperson, you can ask about those numbers up front if you'd like. Now that the financial groundwork's kind of been laid, happy shopping. All right, meeting your salesperson. One of the things that you can do is in the sales process is you're typically going to have some RV service centers or sales centers in your immediate area. They may be 2 hours away. They may be 3 hours away. And if they are, what you can do is call ahead, and you'll be assigned a salesperson in that. And you can talk to that person over the phone and kind of do a little, give them a little bit of information. They may ask a little information, fact finding. That way you can set up an appointment or a time to come in and look at the campers. You can certainly show up, typically your lunchtime is busy. Morning's a great time to come. Mid-afternoon's a good time to come. Towards closing time, maybe not so good. And that's not because we want to push you out. It just sometimes it doesn't give the salesperson enough time or you to go through the sales process and be effective. So that's one of the things that you got to look at. So, meeting your salesperson in a way, it's almost an interview on both sides. I mean, your salesperson is going to ask you a lot of questions, in-depth questions. And, don't get offended by that because, along the way, they're going to ask you where your credit score is at, give or take. They're going to ask you what type of truck you drive. They're going to ask you, what your budget is. They're going to ask you what you intend to do with the camper, where you want to go, what type, maybe what do you do for a living? So, one of those things is that's our fact-finding mission as a salesperson is to understand where you're at in the sales process. See where what your interests are, what you want to do. If you have a Chevy half-ton and you're wanting to buy a 15,000-pound fifth wheel, that's not going to work for you. Or if you come in and you have a budget and we go over all this stuff and you don't realize that you need a hitch and sway or a brake controller, or your truck is right at the limit of, 7,000 pounds and below, that's the only campers we can look at. So asking these questions from the sales side is just getting to know where I'm going to take you out and look at campers, what campers we're going to look at, and it's just getting a better feel for what you want to do and where you're at in the sales process. So don't be offended by that. The salesperson actually has a process, and each company kind of has its own way of how they do that. At Campers Inn, we have a sales process that's, we're not, for the lack of a better word, we're not very pushy salespeople, but we do have a process. And in that process, along the way, you're probably going to meet, probably the finance manager beforehand, the general manager or the sales manager during the sales process. That way you become comfortable with them. Because if you have to talk numbers, it's not like some guy comes from, behind the curtain, try to, close the deal on you, make you uncomfortable. That's certainly not our intent at Campers Inn. That's not how we do the sales process. So, a lot of times, and also if you're coming in, you say, hey, look, Brian, I've looked on all the YouTube videos and this and that and the other, I don't want to go and sit down. Let's just go out and look at campers. We're skipping a crucial step. There's a lot of stuff missing there because, we are experts. We do know what we're talking about. We do know what we're doing, and it can be the little things. I mean, I don't want to waste your time. You don't want to waste my time going out and looking at campers that don't fit your budget, or your truck can't tow it, or it's just completely the wrong thing for you. So the reason we sit down and ask these questions ahead of time before we even get to the lot is to make sure that when we take you out there, we're not going to waste your time. We're going to show you the campers that you're going to be interested in. And typically what we're going to try to do is just show you 3 campers. And that's going to, within those 3 campers, we're going to get a very good idea, and you're going to get a very good idea of what you're really looking for. So that's being said, let's go out and look at campers. So after all the fact finding's done and we've talked about budget, you've gotten to know me, I've gotten to know you. We've now narrowed it down to 3 campers that we want to go look at. Now, this portion of the sales process is probably one of the most exciting part, and it certainly is for me because I'm always excited about showing people campers because that's their future. The camping world is a wonderful community. It's a good way to de-stress. It's a good way to take your family. It's a good way to see the country, and it's just an exciting part of the whole sales process. Is you're getting them to show something, get them excited and involved in the camper, and that's where what we do as salespeople is when we take you to the camper, we're going to show you the features and benefits. We're going to show you the ins and outs, everything that has to do with this camper that makes it exciting, that makes it right, that makes it one might be a little bit more expensive than the other one. But during that process, we've kind of explored everything, and that's the culmination of that. Now it's coming down to, hey, now let's go look at these things and see what we got. There's so many wonderful campers out there, and you got it. This is the point in time where you rely on your salesperson of having that knowledge. And listen, if you ask a question and I don't know the answer, I can promise you I'm not going to tell you something I don't know, and I can promise you that I'll get you the answer. We don't carry around all the time the spec sheets. A lot of times the spec sheets are in the camper, but sometimes when these campers are ordered, they're ordered differently. So as a salesperson, we do know our inventory, so that way we can kind of go through there. And as a consumer, you may have done the YouTube. You may show up and know a lot about the camper, and that's great. And those are fun tours to go back and forth and have the features and the benefits of the camper. And that's the exciting part about it. So once we do all that, once we go through, we look at 3 campers. You may want to look at a few more, once we have that conversation and kind of get involved in it. You may want to look at 2 more. You just don't want to look at 10 campers because by that time, you've become thoroughly confused. You've kind of lost, the whole sales process has gone away, and now you're into, oh my gosh, what do I do? So, and don't be afraid, don't be afraid if you walk in a camper, the very first one, and love it and say, I love this camper, let's buy it. Don't be afraid of that. Don't be scared in this process. And also another myth is in the camping world, certainly for Campers Inn, we as salespeople, we're not going to push you say, oh, gosh, we're going to go sell them this really expensive camper because I'm going to make a ton of money off that camper. That's not necessarily true. I mean, typically what our incentive is to put you in the right camper. That's our incentive. And certainly that's my incentive. I like to have happy customers. I like to maintain my customers. And like I said, I always tell my customers, look, I'm just a phone call away. So once all that's done, you go through that process, you've created a bond with your salesperson, you looked at the campers, now let's go inside and let's talk numbers. All right, now you're doing the recap here. Now we're inside, we've gone through the whole process, we really picked a camper we like. One of the first things that you want to do is, if it's a camper you really like and you're dead set on that camper, your salesperson obviously has done some trial closes along the way. Hey, look, if I can get this, you're telling me you want this camper, if I can throw in a hitch and sway, if I could do that, are you willing to buy the camper today? Or, hey, listen, do you want this camper today? Is this something you want to do right now? So, your salesperson's going to go into the close. They're going to ask you for the sale. That's our job. And, sometimes that's where people kind of get a little, oh, gosh, I like the camper, I don't want to buy. Don't feel guilty. If you like the camper and that's something that you want to do, go ahead and pull the trigger on it. If you're uncomfortable, I have what I call the 4 do's. Do you feel like you picked the right camper? Do you feel like you have the right salesperson? Do you feel like you've made the right choice? Do you feel good about making those new memories in your camper? If all those boxes are checked, then go ahead. Let's, hey Brian, look, let's put it down deposit right now. Let's get the paperwork started. Let's fill out the credit app. Let's go ahead and do all those things. Let's get the ball rolling. If at some point in time you don't feel real comfortable with the purchasing right now, what you can do is then put down the deposit, do the deposit immediately, because chances are if you like that camper, there's 6 other people in 3 or 4 other states that do, and they can put down deposit and that camper can be gone. That happens all the time. Every salesperson has been burned because they failed to get a deposit. They have a customer in front of them. They love the camper. They just want to think about it. You let them walk out. You didn't put a deposit down. The next day, you go online, camper's gone. You look, there's no other ones around the area. All campers aren't created equal. And a lot of consumers don't know that. They don't know that there's not 10 of these campers sitting out here. There may be 1 in 3 states. Or there may be 3, but the one that you're looking at is the cheapest. And that's another thing is we, as our salespeople, we try to find the best deal for our customer. If I have one sitting on a lot over in another city that's $3,000 cheaper, I'm going to sell them that camper because that's going to save my customer $3,000. So, these are the things to consider during the buying process. If all those boxes are being checked, don't be afraid to pull the trigger. But if you have to think about it, then go ahead and put that refundable deposit down. There's no problem in that. And then, that gives you time to sit there and kind of talk about the numbers, get your sales manager involved, get the finance manager involved, come in there, let's get your out the door price, something that you're comfortable with. So that way you have it right there in front of you. There's no, like I said, in Campers Inn, we're fully transparent. We do not want you to be uncomfortable in any way, shape, or form. We don't want to misinform you on something. And certainly financially, we don't want to tell you something wrong. So that's one of the things that's the most important thing. And you know what? That's all I got. All I ask is you to like my YouTube page. I'm going to have further videos as far as the sales process and as far as, service, newer campers. I like to be informative in all my videos, and that way it kind of makes the consumer a little bit more knowledgeable, because the internet is sometimes not a good place, and a lot of times you get a lot of misinformation there. So again, Brian Fletcher, Campers Inn RV, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Thank you.